Hello and welcome. I want to welcome everyone to this conversation with the creative team behind The Lost Daughter. Joining us today are three individuals that received the producer's mark on the film: writer, director, and producer Maggie Gyllenhaal, producer Osnat Handelsman-Keren, and producer Talia Kleinhendler. The Guild would like to thank Netflix for making this conversation today possible. It is my pleasure to introduce and welcome moderator Julie Ansell. Julie is president of motion pictures at Gracie Films and is the producer of films such as Riding in Cars with Boys, Spanglish, Edge of 17, Icebox, and the upcoming Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Julie, thank you so much, and I will turn it over to you to kick things off.
Thank you. It's so great to be here and meet all of you. I saw the film a couple days ago and it was just amazing. I mean, it stayed with me. I've been thinking about it constantly, and I'm just so impressed with, that kind of bravery of making a film like this. I mean, not very many films sort of tackle, what it is to be a mother and some of those, very intense emotions and conflicts. And congratulations. So I guess my first question really is how did you kind of get the material? What attracted you to it? What made you want to make this a movie?
I feel like I've been doing Q&As all day and you guys have not. And so I think you should start, you should take it. You should begin at least.
I think this one was, Maggie and Talia and I met on The Kindergarten Teacher, which was the first film we produced together. And I think it was so clear to us as we were working with Maggie that really she's a director, and we were just thrilled about the idea of working with her again and what it would be like to be part of something she's directing. So we just asked if she wanted to direct, what was the thing that she would do. And she said it would be, and she would love to do something by Elena Ferrante. And actually the first time we met, she bought us a book by Elena Ferrante. So for us, she actually introduced Ferrante into our world. And then we just set out to start looking for, how do you reach this woman? How do you get the rights? And called a lot of people in Italy for quite a long time until we find the right person, and really got this book and read it, and Maggie read it, and we were just hoping that she would love it and want to do it, because we do think it's a bit of a challenging book and a very intense and fierce one. And I think it touched us personally, every one of us, when we read it, and felt like something we haven't really seen. Or I think Maggie says that better than all of us as she talks about this. But I think we're all mothers, and we're all women who are both trying to find a way to live a life that we want, that involves a career that we are very much excited about, and waking up in the morning to do things we love while, having a family. So I think there was something about this book and this movie that just felt so close to home and so intimate in a way.
And what I know, Elena Ferrante, obviously, is we can't actually talk to her, correct? I mean, how was that process to kind of interact with her, and especially as you tackle the screenplay and the adaptation of the book?
Yeah, so Ferrante is anonymous, just for anyone who doesn't know. And so it's not that she's inaccessible, but it's only via email. And her publishers, who are the people who Osnat was communicating with, although you weren't communicating with that woman who we met in Venice, it was Maurizio. So it wasn't even until our Venice screening. There's these two people, a husband and a wife, who run Europa Editions, who are her publishers, and they're really the only kind of professional liaison between Ferrante and the world. So We only met her. We can tell you that story. It was kind of amazing. Talia and I met her in Venice right after we screened the film. The first time we had ever screened the film in front of an audience, because we made it during the pandemic. We never had a screening. But yeah, you're asking about Ferrante. So once the truth is, I mean, now we were maybe like not going to say this, but now it's been said, so there's no reason not to, that it was originally a different Ferrante book that we wanted. It was Days of Abandonment, which when Osnat appealed to the publishers for the rights, and you can speak more to this, but basically they were like, it's extremely complicated. It was made as an Italian film. It's tied up in all sorts of complicated stuff. And they said, what about The Lost Daughter? And I had read the Neapolitan novels and I had read Days of Abandonment, but I hadn't read The Lost Daughter, and I read it in a weekend, and I guess you guys too. And I was like, yeah, sure. This is the same essence of what it is that I want to talk about, which is, I mean, we could get into this. It's not necessarily the producing side, but, which is, the ways in which I think we as women have been silenced, have agreed not to talk about the full spectrum of feelings that we experience as mothers, as lovers, as thinkers, as artists. And Ferrante talked about it. And when she did, to me, it was like a kind of like a electric bolt went through me. Some of the things she was saying, I knew I felt, and other ones I didn't even know I needed to hear. And when I heard them, I was like, wow, this is both disturbing and really comforting. So then when they said, what about The Lost Daughter? And they were pretty encouraging about this possible collaboration, which was encouraging to me. They said, look, you just have to appeal to Ferrante. So I wrote her a letter. And they got it to her, and she said, yes, I said, I wanted the rights. I said, this is why. I said, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but this was the sort of general intention, which was, and continued to be, and like remains, that it's one thing to read these truthful things alone in your room and get this sort of stunned, electric, dangerous feeling, which I think many, many women were having because her books were flying off the shelf. But it's another thing, I thought, what if you actually said it out loud? What if it was in a communal setting as opposed to just privately alone in our rooms, in our bedrooms? And I thought, what would it be like to hear these things said sitting next to your mother or your husband or your daughter? So I said that to Ferrante, and that I wanted to direct it. And she said, okay, you can have the rights. This is just via email, but the contract is void unless you direct it.
Wow.
Which was amazing. I mean, and she's been that sort of spare. We don't communicate very much, but that impactful and supportive and wise all the way through the process. A couple of other times too, which we could talk about if you want.
Also, the other thing that was amazing, I think, Maggie, was that in every adaptation of her book until The Lost Daughter, it has been in Italian, in the same place, in the same setting. And the thing that we all felt, I think, was such an incredible gift was that she was saying, because Maggie was saying in her letter, that she has to do this within the context of her story that she wants to tell and the places she knows. And she really gave not only her blessing, but kind of said, yes, now this is yours and you can do it, in English and not in Italy. And I think that kind of artistic freedom is very rare and exceptional, especially for Ferrante and her work. And I think that is the only time that she allowed that and was so supportive while also giving Maggie and us so much freedom, which we really took as a gift.
Did she want to read the screenplay at all, or she kind of let it go? Or
well, she sent me this she wrote this article in The Guardian. She used to write a weekly or a bi-weekly piece in The Guardian, just like, a couple paragraphs. And she wrote one about this adaptation. And she said, we didn't know about it. Like, we all just woke up in the morning and we were like,
found it. Yeah.
Ferrante wrote to us.
And we were texting Maggie in the middle of the night.
They're like, wake up, wake up. There's always like that. My first emails in the morning are always Talia Osnat. Like, hey, what's happening on WhatsApp? Yeah, so she writes and she says that she would like to imagine in some fantasy way that the movie would stay inside the parameters of what she created in her book. But she feels that it's very important that the movie be good, that it's important for all women. And then she says, the only way it will be good is if it becomes mine. And so she says, as difficult as it is for her, she knows that she has to offer me that freedom. And she says, if I were a man, she wouldn't have offered it to me. And in fact, we know Saverio Costanza very well, who is the husband of Alba Rohrwacher, who plays the hiker in the movie. Mm-hmm. And Saverio directed My Brilliant Friend. You guys weren't there, but I had the funniest dinner with Saverio where he was like, oh, it's true what she said. He's like, she co-wrote with me via email. He's like, no, she did not grant me any kind of freedom. He's like, I love her. I loved working with her, but it was very collaborative. He's very funny about it. But no, so with me, I sent her the script when it was done. She didn't ask for it. She didn't demand it. And she was great. I mean, she gave me a couple of notes, which were not actually notes on the script. They were more notes on, she said, for example, something I completely agree with. She said, Leda cannot be crazy, which I completely agree. Why make the movie? If Leda's crazy, then we just get to go. Like, oh, I'm such a good mom. Look at that crazy lady who's acting like that. I mean, that's not the point at all. And she, most notably, I think about the script, which is very, very different from the book. Although I can't even remember sometimes now what comes from where. The ending, the last line of the movie is basically the exact opposite of the last line in the book. The last line in the book, well, I don't know. Should I talk about the ending in this, or just to know that it's the opposite? And when Ferrante read it, and I really struggled with it. I really did. I really think she's so wise, and I wanted to understand what she meant. And in the end, I just went, I'm going the opposite, 180 degrees, utter opposite. and she read it, and she said, I see what you did at the end, and I love it.
Wow.
And she's wise, she's generous, she's open. I mean, whoever she is, she's no joke.
Yeah. Wow.
She hasn't seen the movie though. What are we going to do about that?
She'll see it. She'll see it.
We're going to send people to the theaters in Italy, scouting, waiting to see who might be.
Right.
And then give her our love and thanks, I think, more than anything else.
Yeah.
So once you kind of had the screenplay, what was the process after that? Was it difficult to get financing? How did you tell me that story?
I think the first thing we did was look for Leda, because we knew that was the key to the whole thing. And we found Olivia Colman, and she loved it and fell in love with the project and wanted to do it, which was a dream for us. And then we had to find young Leda, because this whole concept of two actresses playing the same person was a huge risk, I think, in the filmmaking, and a decision we made early on. And then when we found Jessie, it just all fell into place. And I think then we knew it was going to work, this idea of these women, of this one woman, and I think that was when we started to really go out for financing, because that's when we knew what the movie was, fully.
We had Peter, right? We always had
Peter, yes.
And I think we already were kind of looking and kind of moving forward. Nina
thinking about Dakota.
We didn't have Dakota
when we didn't have Dakota yet. No.
We were starting to look at Nina's.
Yeah, we were starting to look at Nina's, but we didn't have that yet. And that's when we really started to go out to look for financing together with, Deb McIntosh at Endeavor Content. And she was, supporting the project and working on with us to get the financing together. And then thankfully, Endeavor came on to finance along with Charlie Dorfman and Samuel Marshall Productions. And then we had a movie.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
then we went to Berlin to launch it, and a
Right.
pandemic started.
In February of 2020.
Yeah, February 2020, we went to Berlin.
We were at the
And
last hurrah.
Yeah. And we were like, great, we're gonna shoot in New Jersey in the summer. And
Yeah, we were basically, Talia and I scouted in Maine, which is where I wanted to shoot.
yeah.
Talia was like, but by the way, there's a 5% tax incentive or nothing. I don't know. Nothing really.
Something like that. Nothing.
And I was like, well, why did you let me come here? She said, well, we wanted to figure out what it was that we wanted.
And we had fun. We had fun in
ate
Maine.
really well, which is consistent across the board with us. And then we went to Jersey and we were like, okay. I mean, my feeling about New Jersey was always like, okay. They have 37% tax incentive if you're women, or, if you're like a majority of some kind of minority, you have 2 extra % or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For women.
Yeah. Women are, and
That was
women are a
interesting.
minority. And so we were ready to go. And then the pandemic hit and we realized very quickly that our whole plan was just not going to work anymore.
Well, it was so interesting what we did, because we just behaved as if it was going to be okay.
Yeah, exactly.
We used the budget meetings every day and as a coping mechanism. But within that time, I think made like my first real move as a director, where I was like, okay, look, first of all, I don't think New Jersey's going to work. This is when we were all still hoping that things were going to pass quickly. But I wrote this kind of essay to everyone where I said, and anyway, it's wrong. Artistically, it's wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm not sorry to see it go. Let's let it go. And I think that was really the right thing. And then we were on like super producing. I mean, we were like, can we make it work in Rhode Island? Can we make it work in Nova Scotia? We did budgets for fucking everywhere.
We did.
And you guys were like, we really tried Nova Scotia. We had a full Canadian budget. They finally said, we don't want you. We don't want so many international people, like Israelis, French, British.
I think I think in a way, producing is always this thing where you have to be so creative when there's problems. I think this movie and the pandemic, Maggie and Talia and I, and all of the really amazing people that were working with us, prepping this, we consistently was like business as usual, and we're shooting in August.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we'll find where. And the conversation about moving was May. And the decision about actually landing in Greece.
Wait, we skipped one
creative decision.
Wait, we skipped one place though, because what happened was we had Jersey. I was pushing Rhode Island, but that was complicated. Their film fund was full, and maybe they'd open it up for us, but we couldn't get it.
It was always also the issue with the US. We had so many international casts.
It was impossible.
Like it was a problem, just bringing everyone
during COVID. Once the COVID rules started going into place, then a lot of places shut down as an option for us because we were so international. We had to bring people from everywhere, and not everyone was allowed everywhere at the time.
And we couldn't get people in time.
And the thing is also, I think throughout this process and prep and production and post is that we didn't want to make any compromises. Like every change we made, we feel made the movie better. But more than anything, the challenge was, how do we make the changes while not compromising on, our DP was French. She couldn't come into the US. Like, what are we doing now? Our cast was Irish and British and like all these things. What are we doing? How do we even like in post every time? How do we just take this and say, okay, but we're going to use this to make the movie better.
Yeah.
And I think we did. And that was the big
So then
struggle.
you were like, okay, and you have to understand, like, this is early in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Nobody's going back to work. No. And then the UK started going back into production, and Osnat, you were like, couldn't you do it in the UK? We have Olivia Colman. You want her to be British anyway. And I was like, I don't think so, because I can't make a movie about a British woman on vacation in the UK. Like, I'm the outsider then. I don't know what the towels should look like and
What's in the fridge?
Yeah, I really don't know what the fridge looks like, just I was like, no, I can't. And then just out of nowhere, really, it was so weird, like from my unconscious or something. I was like, I called you guys. I was like, is this crazy? I sort of feel like we could do it in Greece.
Yeah, and then 5 minutes later, we were on the phone to everyone we knew in Greece, and we had a budget for Greece, and we were
Had a
already
budget
there.
like a week after that.
It's true.
Yeah.
And then it turns out Greece has a 40% tax incentive.
Yeah, exactly.
In 3 weeks, and they have film,
and they were opening up, they were just opening up because they had very low numbers. So everything kind of clicked together with all the things we needed to do. And I think also creatively, it just was right in the end,
Yeah,
Also,
because
there was something that we wanted a place where the crew, because we knew we would have to bring the local crew, was really excellent crew. And I think within like 3 days, we were calling people we know, Talia and I, in Greece. We were getting a budget. Helen was calling, people she worked with. And we had people on hold before we even knew we were moving to Greece. We had like crews on hold, like the best people, knowing already that we want to come. And one of the things that Maggie kept saying, even when we were talking about Maine or New Jersey, Maggie always wanted this to be this kind of set that is, everyone is staying at the same place, no one is home, a real ensemble of a set, like this feeling that everyone is there and walking to set and all of this. And as I remember us walking in Cape May, talking about it and like saying, well, will it happen? Some people are going to be local. And somehow, as things evolved and we ended up on this beautiful island in Greece, this is what happened, what Maggie really envisioned for this movie creatively, but also to kind of put us all in this place where we are this big family. Everyone is there. You see everyone as you finish work, you walk or cycle to set. And it did create a very, very, very special feeling. And it did give something that I think you also see in the movie, this atmosphere.
Yeah, like a Robert Altman fantasy, but without all the drugs. That was what I wanted. That is that was why New Jersey made me nervous, because we were one of the reasons why. Also, you guys were like, well, we actually need the boardwalk here, so everyone will be local to New York. And I don't know, it was making me nervous. I loved it how we ended up.
Well, I think it really added to the story too, because you just feel the atmosphere and you feel kind of that place where they all are, and it becomes almost a character.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I think production is like that sometimes, that if you have like enough flexibility of thought, but you know what you can't compromise and what's ultimately important, there's a lot of room for artistic discovery that way. And I think that's what we got. We got this, we knew what we couldn't change. We had a very strong foundation in our cast and our crew, in the script, in the story, and what we wanted to do. We had that to lean back on. And then we could play with everything else. And I think that just allowed us to have this gift, which ended up being, shooting on this island in Greece, and added so much artistically to the film. But we could do that because we knew what we had and what was important and what we could not compromise.
Also, a lot of credit goes to Maggie, because I think, it's so difficult for a filmmaker, for us as producers, for all of us as producers, but I think for filmmakers, you write the script and you have this vision and you've been sitting with it, and then this change, it is a change, whenever you kind of change a location. And there were a lot of things, like we knew we were shooting everything on the island, and all of the Young Leda with Jessie Buckley was shot on the island. And these are East Coast apartments and a playground. And her work with Inbal Weinberg, our production designer, and with Helene, and the fact that she had such a, she had a vision for everything that made it so easy to find how we are making this work. And
well, but where it's like we're all grown-ups, like what I mean? Like, of course, there are things you can't compromise, or your movie is no longer worth making. But then also, all of us have made films for nothing, and we understand Inbal and Helene and you guys and me that there are things that have to be compromised. So you go, and often it's interesting there. I just remember the thing about how we got like an original budget, and it's not in the script, it was never in the script really, but there's like a tiny line about the car accident, and it was so expensive, and I was like, oh no, we don't need to see the car accident. Like, if we had all the money in the world, okay, we'll shoot it. But I mean, really, that is so unimportant. But then what is so important is the extra half day we stole. How are we gonna do it?
Yeah, but there were also these fun things, like when we were shooting this in Jersey, the line for the boat, there's a boat coming in. The boat was like such a big item in the budget. There was an issue with the boat. And then you get to an island and they're like, you want this boat, you want that boat. They got all these boats.
I know a guy with a boat. Yeah.
Well, a guy with a boat. Yeah. A black boat. So.
It's true. I was just on this call, this like Gotham directors call with the people who a couple of women who made their movies for really nothing. And the woman who made Shiva Baby was saying that she's like, I had to give up extras. That was another thing I was thinking, like the ticket for extras. I was like,
yeah.
This is insane. like this is crazy. This is a whole nother day. And in Greece, we just use the people who lived on the island. And in fact, COVID was amazing that way, because it meant I just used the same people over and over again, because they lived on the island and they were tested, and we just literally changed their jacket. And you know what? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah, it worked. All these little things just worked. I think it's the movie magic at the end of the day. You get it done.
And the spirit, right? It's the spirit.
And the spirit, yeah. And everyone was so happy to be there, because everyone was coming out of their lockdown and their where they couldn't move, and we were in a way so free with all our restrictions. It was just, you were on the beach and you were free, and you were together with people you were working with instead of alone in your apartment. And so I think it was a real, it was a refuge for everyone, and everyone was just so happy to be there. And that also was part of the amazing energy that we had in the movie, and that we have on screen. Everyone was just grateful to be working and to be making this movie in this time.
I think it was also in the little things. I keep thinking, someone was saying to me from our crew that I just saw in London, when we had the screening, he was saying there was something about the way that I think Maggie and Talia and I kind of approached this production, maybe because we're mothers, and we were like, we're taking care of everyone. Everyone is going to be happy. There's going to be very difficult days. And we worked so hard. It was a very difficult thing, because we worked, we knew we had to get out of Greece before it closed again. We knew that we were going to run out of time. So we did, we worked 6-day weeks and 5-day weeks. It was a very intense shoot and a very intense prep. And we did all these little things where we were just like, everyone that came, someone was, everyone came from a boat, like the actors, the crew, someone was there to receive them, and like almost like this, hi, welcome to the island, come to the family, and just all of the things of how the set was run, how close everyone were. We really, I think, understood that we were bringing people in a like after not working for a while, everyone was still afraid. We were testing 3 times a week. We were, there were like the A group and the B group and the C group. And like, there's all these, like everyone comes to work on a film, which is such a collaborative, job. And you're told, no, don't stand next to that person. You can't go that way. You have to go that way. So we really tried to make this a big, happy family and make everyone feel seen and part of this, because I think everyone gave 200% every day.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, do you think some of that came from the fact that there were so many women and mothers kind of working on behind the scenes? I mean, it does create an amazing energy.
Yeah, I do think so. Definitely. I mean, I definitely think women, I mean, we have this conversation all the time. I think women approach things differently, you know, and I think also creatively, also the way we work. And I think also how we, you know, how we compromise about things, you know, in a good way, and not as like something, oh my God, we have to compromise, it's so terrible, but no, it's an opportunity. And I think that, you know, that's how we looked at everything that happened. You know, I think everything was, okay, we can't do it that way, we'll do it this way, we're doing this, we're doing that. You know, I think it is a very feminine way of looking at things. And I think it gives us strength, you know, and I think it helped us push things forward. Like when it seemed like it was impossible, no one could tell us it was impossible. We wouldn't hear it.
Yeah.
You know, we always, there was always another way. And there were 100 million times where it was like, no, this can't happen. And we're like, okay, but are you sure it can't happen? Maybe it can happen this way. Maybe if we do this, then it can happen. And like, there were a million situations like that, you know, and that's, we just willed it into being, I think.
Well, not just willed it. I think one of the skills of being in our 40s as women, having grown up in this world, is that we're used to being told no. We're used to being told we don't have enough money. We're used to being, so we're like, okay, if it's no, we will be able to accept it. But I am just going to go over here and think of 3 other ways that maybe it could be yes. And they're both doing that too. So then we've got 9 other options. So there's that. And then another thing I just love, you know, this movie, yes, I am a producer along with them, but there came a point where I was like, I can't be on any more budget calls. I'm sorry. I'm like directing this fucking movie. I can't do it anymore. And they took over, and there, you know, there came, I know, how do I put this? I have heard that really it gets real tight at the end, because, you know, you've spent your money and at the end you want this little piece of VFX or this song. And it was actually not my experience, because I think another thing about being women is that we're not allowed to be messy with the money. You know, I was reading the Mike Nichols biography as we were in post, and I was like, guys, he went over like $15 million, you know, he sunk the studio or whatever. And when we finished, Osnat was with me. They took turns because of the pandemic, being with me in post for important things. And Osnat was at the final mix, and she was like, we cannot go over budget, like not even by a penny, you know. She's like, we're women, like we aren't allowed that luxury. And I was like, and we start getting like tight. We're on the very last hour of the last day of the last thing in the movie. And I was like, yeah, we are. We're going $700 over budget. We're staying here for the last hour. We're fucking finishing it. And they're going to have to deal with our $700. But what I mean to say is,
but we still weren't over budget in the end.
We still weren't.
But what I mean is we have to be extra careful or we're going to get pushed aside. And we have to be extra resourceful or we're going to get pushed aside. And those are skills and I think that does have to deal with being women, you know.
It does. And I think part of the fun moments we had was that, you know, we went out, and besides, you know, the Bon Jovi and the Talking Heads, of course, we needed it beforehand. We had no budget for music. Like we really, like, you know, you go to the post and we didn't have the budget for all these beautiful songs. And part of what we did throughout the post was every time there was something, as Maggie was saying, it was a song, it was something we wanted, it was something Maggie wanted, and they would put it on and we couldn't resist it. And we just found a way. We said, okay.
Yeah, how did we do that?
It's because this is what you do. You just figure out a way. And one of the funny things were that, you know, even every time we were like, okay, we got through the production, now it's going to be easier. It was never easy because it just became worse.
Because I have really expensive taste in music.
True.
Very good take.
Terrible.
But also at one point, Helene, our DP, who's French, couldn't get to New York for the grading. So what we did was, in a way, we said, okay, wait a minute, we know this really incredible French grader. So instead of doing this in a way that was like, you know, she can't be there or compromise in any way the process, we had two suites, and we just said, okay, so we're thinking of this in a new way, and we're reconstructing it. And Maggie and Talia were in New York live with Helene and Isabel, who were in Paris. And the work is so beautiful, and it ended up elevating the film as well. Because we were like, there's no way we are compromising on the grading. There's no way we're doing this without Helene. We're going to find a way.
And in fact, we ended up with something even better, because we have Isabel in Paris.
Yeah.
That was hard, though. That was like,
it was hard.
Sort of half speaking French over speakerphone, like looking at the like, oh,
well, your French is better than mine, Maggie. So.
That was hard. That was hard, but it was great.
Yeah, no, but I think that was it, like every step of the way, everything we did that like we were thrown, you know, every curveball, basically, it ended up making the movie better. And that's the truth.
And speaking also of like a few times, you know, like saying, okay, I don't need to see the car accident. You know what? That is not worth the $150,000 ticket. But there were, like, for instance, I was just thinking about Fonzie. That was Alfonso Chavez, who's our editor, and our financiers, who were really supportive. I mean,
really amazing,
doing everything they could to get this movie greenlit and going. I mean,
and agreeing to go to Greece and agreeing to all our crazy ideas.
It was really like these three crazy women keep coming with crazy ideas, and every time we were like, okay, and we will explain. And like after the second line, they would be like, okay, we're with you.
Yeah, but the good thing that there were a lot of women on that side as well. So
yeah,
I just realized I've never met Kelly.
I know, we have to meet Kelly.
We have to meet Kelly Todd.
Kelly Todd is the head of physical production at Endeavor, and
she was like killing it for us. But there was a moment where they were sending me all of, you know, like very beginner editors, and a lot of them were really interesting, actually. But I, like with everything else here, you know, I was like, let's call Bon Jovi or whatever. I had my eye on Fonzie, on Alfonso Goncalves, and we sent him the script. And like the way it was with the script was, some people responded very strongly immediately, and some people didn't. And, you know, the people who did respond like that were really, I think, many times the people who were meant to be working with us. And Fonzie was like that and wanted to do it. And at first they were like, you don't have the money. It's never going to work. You know, he's the fanciest. And, you know, I've worked for nothing as an actress when I loved something. And I just was like, we have to make this work. That's something that's going to give back to you in terms of value exponentially. That's the thing to spend the money on, you know, and in the end, like, we worked that out, you know, that's.
Yeah.
But that was really about, I think throughout the way, I think none of us is really, you know, if we know something is right, we always fight for it. And we had to fight for so many things, as you do as a producer. This is what you do. I mean, God, I wish there would come a day where we know we would just say, well, I want this, here it is. I want this, here it is. Nothing happens, no problems.
You wouldn't know what to do with yourself.
We wouldn't. It would be so boring.
Maggie, we'll be saying like, Maggie, how many Bon Jovi songs do you want? But I do think that there is something, part of the work that I love is actually these moments where Maggie and Talia and I would be zooming in like, okay, but wait a minute. So this is, but here's the idea, and here's our ideas, and here's how we're doing this, and this is what we want. And at one point we already knew that whatever it was we wanted, we'll figure out a way. We just knew we will make it happen. And that kind of a collaboration also is so wonderful and so rare, and it makes you want to just make everything happen. And
no, really, these women, they are like, I really don't think, they are exceptional. It's true what they say, that I'd be like, I think we should do this. And sometimes you guys would start, I have to say, actually, sometimes you guys would start by being like, that's impossible. No, you absolutely can't do that. And then I learned to give them like 20 minutes. And then they would already in their heads have been thinking about how we steal the half day on the beach or whatever. and then like 35 minutes later, they would have a bunch of ideas of how we were going to do it. Seriously. I think
Until the point where we realize we're never saying anymore, we can't do that. We would be like, okay, what do we do?
Because also it's really hard to say no to Maggie.
It's impossible. and never a
Like
good
almost
idea also. I
impossible.
mean, why would you? And one of
Well,
the
thank you guys. This is,
Yeah.
I mean, this has been so great. And I just, again, congratulations on the movie. It's beautiful. And I think a lot of people are just going to it's going to mean a lot to them. So thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thank you.
interviewing us.
Bye.